Next up, we have our hemp industry panel, which will be moderated by Ryan Baucus. Our featured speakers are Mariah Dodson, who's the founder of United Herbalism, and Wayne Richmond, Executive Director of the California Hemp Association. So I'd like to introduce Ryan, who's the president of the California Cannabis Coalition. Ryan started his career very early at age 19. From 2014 to December of 2015, he served as the manager and lead lobbyist for Californians for Responsible Government, a 501c3 organization working in legislative affairs. He did framework building and policy structuring for issues including tax reduction, environmental sustainability, water, zoning, and land use, as well as local outreach to officials and department agencies, staff in cities in California, such as Upland, Claremont, San Bernardino, Santa Ana, and Los Angeles. Since joining the California Cannabis Coalition in 2015 as its corporate secretary, Ryan has successfully led nearly half of the coalition's victories in the institution of regulatory frameworks, such as the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act, AB 266, AB 243, and SB 643, citizens' initiatives and referendums to overturn bans in local municipalities. In 2017, Ryan led his coalition in the world-famous California Supreme Court case, California Cannabis Coalition versus the City of Upland, with the coalition becoming the first and the only cannabis trade organization in the nation to successfully take a local jurisdiction up the appellate in a framed decision centered around cannabis, ballot measures, and taxes as regulated under Prop 13 in 2003. Also later in that summer, he received a nomination by the chair of the Committee for the State Small Business Employers Association. From 2018, Ryan has worked directly with the state of Colorado's Marijuana Division and Revenue and Taxation Group to put together comprehensive policies for their statewide social equity program, facilitation of the coalition's partnership with the Bureau of Cannabis Control's Get Weed Wise to lead responsible use of cannabis in their mission and to always keep the California cannabis clean. He led the organization over a dozen state legislative victories with 8 co-led measures signed, as well as co-leading the lobby against AB 1530, the delivery ban in 2019. This year's proposed smokable hemp ban, AB 2028, and also halting the schedule vote for the MORE Act with Sean Kiernan and the Weed for Warriors project. Before the start of this year, Ryan hand drafted the recommendations made to Governor Newsom for the general budget plan of 2020 to eliminate the markup, wholesale, and cannabis business tax as revealed in his proposal for the general budget on cannabis tax reform, tax relief in the marketplace, and to be deemed essential during the pandemic, as well as handwritten recommendations to the inclusion of banning of additives in cannabis vape pens in this year's final version of AB 1639 to be reintroduced at the next session. So with that, I would love to welcome Ryan to the stage, and he will introduce his panelists.
Here we
Still on mute.
Stop muting me. I think we got it now. So hi everybody, as you got the word from the young lady here. My name is Ryan Baucus. I'm president and chairman for California Cannabis Coalition, as well as president for American Cannabis Coalition. Thank you for, of course, the great introduction. And of course, thank you for our great panelists, Mariah Dodson. If you're not familiar with her, she is the founder of Dust to Diamonds. Actually, she is also one of the youngest license holders in, I believe, not only the state, but the nation. She could correct me later on that. She's also our chair for diversity and inclusion and equitability on the CCC, and our great friend, Wayne Richardson, who actually, he was also a helping hand on killing AB 2028 to get rid of the smokable hemp ban provision. So with that, we'd love to introduce them, get them online. and let them introduce, of course, themselves and give a little what's over, because we got a lot to go over, especially coming down not only globally, but nationwide, some of the news coming in statewide and locally. So, definitely let's go ahead and get right to it, guys.
Well, hi, and good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Ryan. I'll just jump in, I guess, right? You want to talk about legislative things?
Well, not necessarily. Wanted you to go ahead and give a little introduction of yourself, but also too, I guess with that, go ahead and jump into some of the things, because you have been, especially coming off hot this week. You explained to me you were working on some things related to the Hill, especially with the DEA and the USDA, and came off some great landmark successes in the coming weeks or in the past weeks. So definitely go ahead and introduce yourself. And let's go ahead and get right started with the legislative fix of things from the national level.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. My name is Wayne Richmond. I'm the founder and executive director of the California Hemp Association and the California Hemp Foundation. We have been involved with supporting over 1,200 acres of research farms in California, and we are also the holder of the Real California Hemp Quality Assurance Logo program for our California farmers. So we're involved in a lot of things, both statewide and this year also nationally. So that's kind of in a quick oversight what I do and what I'm going to talk about. My background includes also being a major accounts person, a business development guy for Apple Computer, and a serial entrepreneur. So the hemp opportunities are plentiful. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry waiting to be birthed. Come join us.
And with that, Mariah, are you on board with us right now?
Hello, my name is Mariah Dotson. I am the COO of Dust to Diamonds Incorporated. We are a cannabis license holder, as well as the founder of United Herbalism, where we manufacture, distribute, and retail CBD products. So I'm excited to be here with you all and get into some fun stuff.
Well, actually, let's go ahead and start with you, because you're soon to be, as you already have mentioned, the owner of a hemp cultivation site. So that's pretty, that's pretty rad, especially, shows young cats like us are out here, especially stepping up our game and taking control of the scheme and lay of the land, and showing what can, especially with these new emerging markets such as cannabis, such as hemp, what we are able to accomplish and what we're capable of. And, especially with you having experience, not just in business, but also in policy, you can see a little bit of a different fold, of course, from the business perspective. And even like Wayne said, it's very plentiful, obviously, the potential out there, but we also have to stay realistic in the fact that there are also, tumultuous times, as we've seen, of course, especially as someone mentioned earlier, the slow, I guess you could say, pace for regulation, not just on the federal level, but on state and even local level. So, if you could go ahead and kick us off, what exactly from your experiences, I would like to see, of course, the things that you thought coming into the hemp space, and now the things, that you're here, what do you think now? Because of course, many people have this perception, and, it's not quite as it is at the surface level, is it?
Absolutely. So I would say coming into the cannabis industry specifically, it was a lot of things that were unexpected, CEQA, bringing water and power, things as that such. And also the tax, the policies had not caught up to the business side of things. So being able to maneuver into the hemp industry, I see a lot of the same challenges, but I also see a lot different opportunities, right? So where there were challenges in cannabis, there are some of the same challenges in hemp. But we are able to apply those in different ways and take those steps necessary to continue to build out manufacturing, to continue to, advance into cultivation and partner with strategic companies that can help us get into the market in different areas. So I think it's a combination of really being able to apply the knowledge that cannabis provide and is providing, and utilizing that in the hemp space. So I think that's something that's huge.
And, with that, actually, let's bring Wayne back into the groove of things. because I don't think people even going back to, just cannabis in general. First of all, they are very separate, but they are also very similar and same just in general, because of course, the reasons they were banned, the war on drugs, the war on culture, the changes in regulations, people are changing their perception and it's not consistent with what truly is. And especially the interdependency and regulation in business and how that impacts, of course, the limitations or the fruitfulness and access for the people that buy these products, which as of right now, we see where most of them go to. Wayne, bringing it back really, especially to what she even said, as far as seeing the similarities and the different opportunities, what do you say, especially on the regulation side and the interdependency that business, proceeding from the regulation that happens on a national level to a state level, how they're impacted, how they have to maneuver and adjust and further at the same time evolve? That's pretty critical. And I don't think an element a lot of people really even look at typically.
Right. Well, that's a good question. Lots of details to that, lots of granularity, but let me see if I can address some of that. In California, we have both that are available, both medical use, adult use, and now with the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp is a USDA crop, and we're legal. However, there are attempts, and AB 2028 was just that, as Ryan started to tell you. One of the things that, besides a smokable hemp ban, that was problematic was the extreme taxation. In fact, the taxation, mirrored the cannabis side, which would have killed the market, where we don't have that profitability on.
If I may, actually, that's
right?
funny that you say that, because that's where a lot of people were actually saying this was a Prop 64 attempt in using, of course, now hemp policy.
Right, and fully, I believe it was an attempt to create another Bureau of Cannabis Control, and we are already wrestling with the CDFA that's the California Department of Food and Agriculture, who oversees the industrial hemp program, to not get into that kind of lane of regulation and taxation. In fact, we're arguing with them now over an increase in fees that are in fact onerous and will hamper the industry here. But as the taxation was a very big part of the smokable hemp ban, also there were lots of other nuances in there. It was really a horrible bill brought on by people who know better. I'm not going to name them. They know who they are. If you want to go to our website on Facebook, you can find out for yourself who they are. It was very difficult. Now, at the national level, we had a great meeting last week with the SBA, Assistant General Counsel. Sat down with a group of us from standing hemp organizations that have come together with the help of the National Hemp Association, forming a new voice, clear of the old politics and the old characters from yesteryear and last year. Kind of the industry, as many people know, struggled this past year. Either seed was not good and outcomes were not as predicted. The market wasn't there for all the outcomes. Companies like Gen Cana having difficulties, etc. This year and going forward, I think we've kind of cleaned the pipes, if you will, hopefully. But the regulations are still in process. And one of the things I'd like to, maybe do a shout out if I can, the USDA has reopened their comment period on the interim final rules for the hemp bill. And it is really imperative that anybody who's interested in positive outcomes go there and add your voice to the comments. They want to hear from real farmers. They want to hear real circumstances. And particularly what they want to hear is how negatively that may impact you as a small farmer. So the one thing I can say, much to my surprise in my Washington visit earlier in January before the pandemic, met with USDA, the entire hemp team, Sonia Jimenez, Bill Richmond, and all of their fine folks and staff members with our crew. And I have to say, not only were they absolutely positively on the side of farmers trying to grow hemp and trying to understand what they can do administratively, And cynical me was just couldn't be more pleased. And I just want to give a shout out to Sonia and Bill Richmond and the team at USDA because they were awesome. So please get out there and do that. The interim final rules are really important. The other thing it is, we need to extend the 2014 Farm Bill because frankly, the rules coming into play at the time that they will come into play here for testing protocols in particular, will impact harvesting. So timing is everything. So those would be the two things that I would ask people to speak to. But
actually, I was going to ask you real quick, and we're going to
Yeah.
turn this to Mariah because I wanted to ask her. And this is, I mean, it's going to be a question really for both of you guys, but this one obviously right here for you, because a lot of people, and I'll even pull it up. I'm not a big numbers guy. I'm a big stat guy. Don't ask me to do math in the morning, especially before I have my coffee. We will have a problem. But, you know, something that especially, I'm sure Mariah, and this is where we're going to actually ask her to cue in here. From the business level perspective, that's great to know that. And I've met with some of Department of Ag and USDA's folks before. They are very eclectic group of folks. They actually do care about the issue. Fortunately, unlike most departments, you know, something that is a grave concern, I was actually going to ask you, you already addressed it, is, are they seeing, you know, the problems that the farmers are experiencing? People like Mariah, now that she has to navigate into, of course, two different worlds, but navigate this world in which you, as you stated, especially it's been very flatline as far as policy movement. You know, roughly about 91% of farmers are, you know, of course, they report some sort of financial hardship. And I believe, if I'm looking at it correct, 87% of those, they are affected by mental health directly from that and are afraid to lose their farms. This is actually numbers from the American Farm Bureau Foundation. So we're talking about hemp, but we're not seeing that hemp really, especially this is something I want the investors, you guys, to really understand. Two things. One is stick close to the plant. Stop investing in these holding companies that aren't touching the plant and aren't actually physically interacting with the things that are going to either be your success or your breaking point. But really understand we're talking about a sector of agriculture. So now the sector of agriculture, which has been proliferately just, you know, hampered over the now, you know, centuries, is going to also be attributed into the hemp space. So, you know, you already answered the question as far as, are they seeing those things? They want to hear from farmers, so clearly they are. Mariah, what has some of, especially you now going into this space as a business owner, because obviously that's very critical, the USDA looking to enhance policy or even really to forego the current policy and extend prior policy. You know, that's critical for people like you, especially as a business owner, not necessarily to have policy in place, but have the right regulation and policy in place that's not going to be burdensome to your growth and to your betterment as a business owner, correct?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing that I think the hemp industry itself could take from the cannabis industry is, you know, these subcommittees who assist in the policy drafting, such as, you know, yourself, you know all about that. So really being able to have the farmer from the manufacturer to the distributor to the marketer and everyone in between writing, assisting the lawmakers in writing these policies so that these policies are writ for businesses to be successful, farmers to be successful, so that these farmers have less risk. Everything's a risk, we understand, but they have less risk when getting into this business, so that we can take numbers like 87% mental health and lower those. That should never be a risk that the American farmer has to, you know, take in. So I absolutely think a subcommittee.
Well, actually,
I could speak to that because we have some things in play right now with USDA and EPA as well as US SBA. One of the things we were able to do with them just to show they are in Washington really wanting to help the farmer. That's the good news. I want to share that with everybody. Two of the things.
Well, it's conservative town. They should.
Right. And so two important things just to share with you what we were able to come away with in January with our meetings with them included the relaxation on the DEA testing rule, that it had to be DEA labs only, So now it could include the ISO certified labs, because that, we explained to them, that would be a bottleneck to the extreme of the industry, because we couldn't get enough testing in of the acreage that was being planted. So they understood that, and in fact, were able to tweak the regulations. See, there's a certain amount of things that they can do within the regulation framework, right? And so we have people on our team that actually have worked at the USDA and have USDA speak in their blood. And so we're able to help guide them. As Mariah pointed out, absolutely, when you have those opportunities, take them or create them, which is what we're doing, right? So the other thing we came away with was this concept that in the testing protocols, no one figured out a margin of error should be applied. And we got them to agree that scientifically that makes total good sense. And so that, along with some changes in the testing protocols, meaning literally how they go to a field and what plants they clip and how much they do and test, could in fact give us enough wiggle room so that hemp farmers won't be found to be with hot crops and then facing destruction orders from the locals, right? That's an important.
Well, and actually to add on that, because now it actually made me think about something, going back to actually with you, Mariah, your decision making and where you actually went to do the purchase for your hemp farm, because the saturation in markets for hemp farming, but as Wayne just noted, we have oversaturation of flower from the hemp market, but nowhere to test it and nowhere to process it. So it's kind of just a conundrum of problem after problem, because we're talking about, these farmers are looking now at literally either holding their product, which obviously will eventually go bad unless they have the right, the adequate storage systems to do so. But really, of course, Mariah, going back to, again, your decision making, because a lot of people are looking at just jumping into the hemp space and not really understanding the supply chain is not really there at the moment. It's very stagnant, and actually really just almost non-existent. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree to some point, right? So one thing that I would say the military has taught me is, the first thing is service, right? We need to know how to be of service to our community. So in my decision-making process, it's always been going to areas, counties who require the most service, which as a business it's challenging, but it provides the most, we solve more problems that way. So in the decision-making process, I have picked cities who are not very well established in their ordinances or their legislation, and they need some guidance. My newest venture, which I'm super excited about, I haven't necessarily had to purchase the farm. My grandfather has owned the farm for 60 some years, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, my bad.
But I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful for that because there's experience behind the farmer. I think in this new venture, there is going to be so many farmers who are just looking for guidance and looking for answers. And so I think that's important, that when these businesses are going into new places, they're finding people who really, truly do need the help. They need the guidance, and they're willing to accept it as well. So I think I know Wayne could probably comment to that as well.
Well, every day farmers are struggling just in general. Mother Nature is always throwing something at them. And I think we in the urban centers are disconnected from that. And I can say that I've lived many years of my 66 years so far, not fully as connected as I could be and should be. And that's part of my passion and why I'm here, rather than being a retired guy, is to fight for our farmers and the opportunity for them to grow this crop that helps heal the soil, provides better food and better outcomes for everyone involved, any part of that value chain, from the seed all the way through the food products, to the clothing, to the oils, to the plastics, and all the other things. I will say that while most people thought the gold rush was the CBD and CBN and CBG and CB's XYZ, which will be next week's variety, many of those farmers look back at their own family roots. I'm sure, Mariah, many of your, family farms in the areas of your family's farms also. Many of them actually grandparents grew this crop, but they grew it in the fiber variety. And it's the fiber variety that went to that were the canvas sails, that were the coverings of the covered wagons. Cannabis is actually Dutch. I mean, canvas is actually Dutch for cannabis. So it was cannabis cloth, and that, in fact, were the first Levi's, etc. So that's really the history. And if we get back to that, the value add in all of that, the plastics. I mean, BMW and Mercedes cars use hemp plastics every day.
Yeah.
These are luxury automobiles. I'm involved with Hempcrete and helping to build Hempcrete homes. These are healthy, safe homes that don't burn. Did you hear me, folks? Fire resistant, antimicrobial. It's a premium product. Our farmers can do all of this stuff. So that's kind of what I'm helping farmers understand, both in the genetics that they have in terms of what's available seed-wise, but also in what we need to do as an industry to build out the infrastructure to process the crop into these various constituent commodities that we can all turn into all kinds of crazy good things. I mean, think about all the face masks that people could be wearing right now of antimicrobial hemp textile.
Now, real quick, Wayne, actually,
from silk to you know, like burlap.
So real quick, Wayne, to top on that, because actually that's a very great point. Something I think actually really investors, you should always ask this question as to what is your end goal, because you know, we really are talking about a product, or not even a product, an agricultural phenomenon that could be used in 50,000 million, however many ways, but people are looking at it very singularly from, you know, CBD and processing it to, you know, a few, you know, maybe clothes here and there, instead of looking at the industrial application and some of the, even, I guess you could say, really the innovation factor, because a lot of people aren't even looking at, of course, you know, like you just said, the hempcrete side of things. Actually, that is a sector that is taking off pretty rapidly right now. And for investors, it's, you know, look at something new, especially like he just said. You know, we're talking about a plant that can, yes, it has many potential uses, but what uses are going to be the most applicable, especially in this next 5 to 10 year period? And things like what he just said, face masks, I'm writing down that I got to get a pen for that. Sorry, you gave me a new idea though, but it's true. There are so many things that if we actually went outside the box and thought about it, you know, of course, again, investors, make sure that you're looking at more factors than just who's making the best CBD product. You know, look at who's maybe making the new hemp battery for the next Tesla car or whatever. Just think outside the box, because this is really an industry now of not just agriculture and medicine, but innovation and research and development overall. And someone said they have the hemp battery. That's right, my man, Derek, you go. That's right.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, we do have 1 minute, so go ahead, and I would like for you and Mariah to make some last remarks, especially directed at, you know, the audience, some of the investors, particularly on what to look for. I mean, what to, you know, especially what to look for in partnering with the farmer, not just investing in a farmer, but partnering with the farmer, not just with the story, but who actually is going to be in it for the long haul and can execute. You know, your take and Mariah's take, please.
Well, Mariah, which would you want to jump in it, or shall I? It's either way.
Well, I think first and foremost, it's really important that the entire vertical model is within the investor's reach, right? So that you are able to see seed to sale, or whatever that product is making. So investing in businesses who are not only passionate about that, but also believe in the possibilities of what this plant can do itself, going into programs for veterans, going into social equity, many, many different aspects. But that model should be vertical from the ground up. So that would be my insight.
Well, vertical is a good model for a lot of people. There are farmers we know that are in fact surviving on that model right now. Several, a couple that I know in Imperial County, as a matter of fact. As to the hemp battery, there is a patent issue, just so people know that in fact, 4 years ago, Dr. David Midland, I'll give him a shout out because I have an NDA with the gentleman, on creating graphene from hemp. Okay.
I've read that. I've read that
for those
study, yeah.
investors who are looking, you're welcome to contact me afterwards as well. But listen, Porsche 2 years ago created a sports car body out of hemp fiber exclusively. Henry Ford did it 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Every BMW i3, if you look at the dashboard, looks like it has fibers in it. That's hemp fiber plastic, ladies and gentlemen. Okay?
Wow.
It's right in front of your face. You don't even see it. And I'm telling you, that's the future of this crop. And indeed, if you're interested in saving the planet and having climate impacts, the only way this crop, which captures 9 tons of carbon per row crop acre every growing cycle, which is 90 to 120 days max, right? Not like 20-year trees. With that kind of carbon capture rate, the numbers could be off the chart, but you have to grow the fiber variety in literally hundreds of thousands of acres, turning it into clothing, turning it into plastics and oils and all of the constituent products. And by the way, it's a superfood if you eat the seed. It's called hemp seed hearts. Look it up in your local market. Anyway.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights today, Ryan, Wayne, and Mariah. We really appreciate it. It's been great learning from you, and we look forward to continuing the conversation during our networking session.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.